Thank you. Thank you, and good morning to everybody. Thank you very much. This ought to be interesting. This is my first opportunity to quasi-TED Talk. Usually I'm hanging onto a podium, for balance. I'd like to really get started, if I could, if we all would stand for a moment of silence. For those in our ranks over these years, including the 164 that will be placed on our hallowed walls in Colorado Springs this September, who lost their lives in the line of duty due to cancer. And I'd also like us to keep in our prayers the loss of one of our great champions on January 10th, when we lost Dr. James Milius, who served as our chairman of our union's medical advisory board, who was worked so hard and involved in passing the Zadroga Act and in setting up the 9/11 Victim Compensation Fund. If we all could just a moment of thought and prayer. Thank you. I'd like to start by, first of all, thanking our sponsors. Tenkata, W.L. Gore, Globe MSA, DuPont. They really came to the table and to provide everything we needed to put together this cancer summit, and covered virtually all the costs associated with it, including this morning's breakfast, today's lunch, and so much more. So please, everybody, appreciation for our sponsors for our first Cancer Summit. This union is really focused on so many health and safety policies. You heard a lot of them mentioned on Monday in my comments, but more importantly, you've learned about a lot of them over the course of this week, where we enjoyed just an incredible Alts and Human Relations Conference. And everything that we're trying to do with the scourge of cancer, with our members, is brought about the team I always talked about. It's led with my union partner, your GST, Ed Kelly, who has an extraordinary career as he's been coming through this labor movement of ours, and now serving as your GST. It comes about because of an executive board that's always focused on our members and on all of you, our leadership, and trying to do everything we possibly can to make sure that we are trying to reduce the experience of cancer and try to keep more names off those beautiful granite walls. So to our GST, Edzo Kelly, and our executive board, please give them a round of applause for everything they do for this union. And I also said Monday, that the officers get to establish the mission, establish the priorities, sometimes to have an idea about some of the goals and programs, but it ultimately has to be produced into the services and tools and resources. And as it relates to our health and safety issues, we are blessed with an incredible staff led by Pat Morrison, who so graciously introduced me this morning, and from my home local, and Jim Brinkley, who's our Director of Health and Safety, Rick Swan, who's our Director in the Health and Safety Department for our focus on wildland firefighting, Larry Petrick, who's our Deputy Director of Health and Safety, an incredible health and safety staff. Every aspect of what we're trying to do to keep our members well, healthy, and living longer is due to their incredible work. So, gang, thank you very much for everything you're doing for this IAFF, wherever you are out here. I also mentioned Monday, and Bobby Halton and I had a chance to do a little interview yesterday to talk about cancer. And the two of us coming from the same generation, we talked about the old superhuman firefighter and how, eating smoke was a badge of courage. And coming out from that hallway and, excuse me, blowing a black snot out of your nose was just, if you didn't have that going for you, then you weren't really doing much of a job on the job. And unfortunately, more than not, including myself, thank God I quit 45 years ago, first thing you do when you'd walk out of a job is you'd light up a cigarette. That was the image of firefighting. And we've got to change that image, and we've got to change that culture, and that's what we're doing. And so much has changed over time. We've made a lot of advancements in making sure, you keep that SCBA on, keep that mask on. Yeah, even during an overhaul. We're going to be learning, a lot about new protocols and techniques and trainings over the course of today. And all of this, again, is dedicated toward our members living. I don't want to be dramatic, but they're dying, and they're dying younger and younger from cancers. And we can do something to help stop that. And as I said, to keep those beautiful walls with less and less of our members' names on them. So that's what part of today is about, to send you home, with the new prevention and education techniques, to really understand the true risk of cancer that our members are subjected to. Yeah, to make sure that we're wearing our proper gear and we're deconning at the scene and we're washing off your body and turnouts after the job. We're going to learn so much more about the early detection today. Pat mentioned our Wellness Fitness Initiative. That was not just to keep our people healthy, but those were the early medical requirements so we can start catching cancers and other occupational diseases much, much earlier, give a chance for better treatment and better results from treatment. Yeah, we're going to require annual medicals, and that's what we began to do, and make sure that our members know that we want them fit and to have good nutrition. And then to build a peer trainer program to help them make sure that they could stay fit and work out in a very productive way. And now 8,000 certified physical fitness trainers that we've provided and established over the course of these several years. So whether it's bagging up your gear, which is going to be a lot of resistance to that, and there's a lot of departments where, hey, that's a great idea, but we get 3 jobs a shift. But it is a goal to pursue, and making sure that we are using the extractors to clean them up as quickly as possible, demanding from our departments, 2 sets of gears, because so many have simply one. We're going to be talking today about policies, taking on the chemical industries, as I mentioned, to try to force them to reduce the amount of flame retardants that they're stuffing in all of our furnishings and all of our flooring and wall coverings. We're going to be talking about the NFPA and OSHA standards that protect our firefighters and how we're continuously enhancing those standards and trying to make them stronger and more effective. We're going to be talking about the presumptive laws that our affiliates in our state and provincial bodies have been doing incredible work in establishing, through law, through the political process, to make sure that cancer is an occupational occurrence, and unfortunately disease. And when disabled, should be entitled to the benefits. And unfortunately, when fallen, to make sure our families get the right benefits that any other occupational disability or death would be entitled to. We're going to be talking about how we can keep adding the cancers to those laws and enhance picking up more and more of our people to be covered by them. You're going to be hearing more about N4s, and yes, it's data, and yes, for some of us, it's like, my gosh, it's so not hard to understand, but we've got to understand how critically important our N4s program will be to exposure, and making sure that our members are recording their exposure so that we can follow them through their careers. We're going to be hearing about groundbreaking studies. You're going to be hearing about the dust studies, where it's been documented now, that chemicals, toxins that we're bringing back into the firehouse and we're bringing home to our families is real. And then we'll talk about the protocols and SOPs to limit that cross-contamination. We'll be also talking about the fluorescent aerosol screening test and demonstrating how the particles get through our PPE still, and it gets absorbed in our skin. All of this, again, to lead to better outcomes. And then we're going to continue to make sure that our cancer registry bill, HR 931 and S 382, will finally get through the Congress and to the President's desk for signature, so that we have another basis of data and research and experience that will help the scientific community and the medical community understand how better to protect our members from these horrible diseases. And you're going to be learning about groundbreaking diagnostic tools that leads to groundbreaking treatment when, unfortunately, if our members get cancer, you'll be hearing about the GPS cancer from Nant Health and the unbelievable use of supercomputers and how they can now diagnose cancer to personalize it for your cancer, and provide such a very specific treatment that leads to much better outcomes. We got a great lineup of speakers. So please, just listen carefully. I know you will. Take this information home. Take it back to your departments. Work with command and management to help institute a lot of what you'll be taught today. And I think that together we're going to bend that unfortunate curve and make sure that we continue to prove the health and safety of our members. So enough from me. Let's really get started. This is a day of information and education and instruction. And so I'm simply going to turn it back over, Pat, to you. Have a great day. I'm looking forward to listening to every single speaker myself. Thanks.
Thanks, boss. Thank you.